you, Verena. So now we come to the point of why do companies undergo this complicated process of merging and acquiring with other companies? Well, there are several motives. One of the biggest motives is synergy. This has to do with chiefly the benefits accrued from revenues, for example, where the revenues of two companies combined are much more than they would have been for each individual company. Expenses and cost of capital. These are dramatically reduced because they are shared across two much bigger institutions than they would have been as individual companies. Would have been much more expensive for each individual company to take on. Growth. With a merger or with an acquisition, there is now access to the other company's resources, such as human resources, since we're talking about that, and other financial resources, etc. Access to market share and to knowledge. Obviously, all this naturally allows the company to grow bigger, grow faster, grow better than it is, ideally speaking. And then there's also the ability for a company to acquire capabilities that they would not have been able to do so otherwise in normal circumstances, such as technology that is unique to a region, for example, Silicon Valley, or patents that are not signed out to just anyone. And therefore, merging with or acquiring a company that does have access to such assets will allow a company to then benefit in more ways than it could have done otherwise. And then there's a chance to exploit the market. It allows a company to venture into untapped potential. For example, emerging markets. A company that has only dealt previously with developed nations now has the opportunity to explore the markets of fast developing economies that offer even more opportunities for growth. And then there is positioning, which has to do with creating opportunities for its future. For example, a company that makes cameras may want to today merge with or partner up with in some way with a company that works with the internet. So down the line, in the future, they can create a product that incorporates both cameras and the web for an individual user, allowing them to have a market that may not have existed before they tried to do such a thing. They may also want to undertake a merger and acquisition as an answer to government policies. For example, certain governments allow tax breaks for companies that are bigger in size. Allowing a temporary merger would give them the opportunity to take advantage of such a policy. Also, bigger companies tend to have greater influence on the decision-making of economic policies, political policies. For big companies that want to become even bigger conglomerates, this is something that they would be really interested in. The ability to handle large clients, for example, law firms, they will have high-profile clients that are well-known, have high influence socially, politically, economically, and as a single law firm on its own, they may not have the capability, the services to be able to provide to the big client. And so it would be better off if they could merge with another company to become stronger in order to be able to cater to these strong clients. Diversification. This relates to spreading risks. A company may diversify into related or unrelated industries. For example, a car manufacturer may then decide to go on and make food processing machines. It still has to do with machinery, but the end product is very, very different. But this allows them to spread costs over many different projects, and also allows them to take advantage of more opportunities, different opportunities that may crop up with every new venture they take part in. Gap filling. This refers to the weaknesses that are within any company. And a company may find that another company, in fact, is quite strong in this area, and so if they were to work together, they would be able to complement each other and overall become a much stronger entity. That's another key reason for a company to merge and acquire. And finally, personal incentives. Now these generally have nothing to do with business strategy, but more to do with leading individuals' own incentives for personal gain, for example, better salaries or certain benefits, certain political maneuvers they'll be able to accomplish if they merge with a certain company in a certain country. But it has nothing to do with a company as a whole, a strategy for the company as a whole. As with any benefit, there are obviously also challenges that would face in any new endeavor that a company decides to take on. For example, in mergers and particularly so in mergers and acquisitions, informing the company of what is going to happen, telling them why it's happening, is also very, very important, because generally people are resistant to change, and a change is great, as merging and acquiring with another company can have negative consequences on the working situation of the company. It's important that the employees are kept in the know as honestly as possible. Forming an M&A team and choosing a leader. This is very important because M&A is such a complex undertaking that having a team dedicated, especially for this move, will allow it to happen much more efficiently, will allow planning to happen better, so that the people involved are not distracted by any other operations of the company that obviously will carry on while this merging and or acquiring is going on. Assessing the corporate and the national cultures. As my colleagues Bino and Ilka have already described to you, culture is a very important, influential aspect of any organization. And when undertaking an M&A, it is important to be able to assess them correctly in order to be able to work with them and around them effectively. Deciding who stays and who goes. This decision is extremely important because managers who fire the wrong people and keep those that do not perform at optimum levels will, down the line, end up causing a problem that may ultimately lead to failure of this merger and acquisitions, or lead to high costs, which is not anything any company would ever want. It's a very important decision that does take a lot of thought into it. Not to mention getting rid of people, which is inevitable in merging and acquiring, can also create negative energy in the workspace. It's something that does need to be handled with quite a lot of care. And finally, deciding on appropriate human resource policies, practices. These need to incorporate both the home company and the company that is being merged with or being acquired. It needs to benefit both, it needs to be in the best interests of both. It cannot be ethnocentric in nature, it cannot be self-satisfactory in nature. It does need to be able to boost both parties involved in the M&A. Of course, with any endeavor, there is a likelihood of failure. Unfortunately, quite a lot of M&As do end up in failure, and some of the key reasons are right here behind me. Unrealistic expectations of the other party. This involves one company expecting the other to accomplish certain things or not do other things that may lead to a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication, which, at the end of it all, leads into things not being done the way they should have been done. And because of that, the entire undertaking does end up in failure. It starts from something small and just keeps on becoming bigger and bigger because of an initial misunderstanding of what one party expected the other to do. And of course, it doesn't then get done. Hastily constructed strategy that has not been planned well, does not then end up being executed well. This, of course, causes a lot of chaos, a lot of problems. Any things so complicated does need a lot of planning, and the execution does need to follow the plan exactly. If this doesn't happen, with a lot of people involved, it does create a lot of chaos, which is why the need for a dedicated M&A team was mentioned earlier. Then there's the failure to get behind a single message. Why is this M&A happening? Why is a merger and acquisition taking place? People have their own agendas, or people don't want to listen to the message, don't believe in it. But if everybody involved is not believing in that message, it will create problems, because people will not work to the plan indicated, to the strategy indicated. That will create problems down the line, eventually leading to failure. And finally, talent is misused or misplaced or lost because the wrong person is fired, or the wrong person is placed in charge, or people are simply ignored even though they're perfectly able to do the job very well. When this happens, when the job is not done or is not done well, it results in a lot of costs, which ultimately also leads to failure. With all of this, I will now hand over to my colleague Shiv, who will conclude our presentation today.